Hello guys, welcome back to Fanfic Dojo. Today we will be listening to What If Naruto Was the Shinobi of Kumo and Build His Harem Part 1. The night covered the sky of Nami no Kuni as the stars twinkled in the distance, mapping the galaxy for dreamers. In a small house away from the main town, a small boy was about to start an argument he had no chance of winning. "Why are you still here? You will only make it worse. Gato's going to kill you," he cried at the people in his home only to have it shoved back in his face. "We're here to keep your grandpa safe, so be respectful, you little brat," a 12-year-old boy replied. He had spiky blonde hair, cerulean blue eyes, whisker marks on his cheeks, and a bright orange jumpsuit. This was Naruto Uzumaki, prankster, believer, dreamer, and most of all, he was a ninja. "Shut up, Baka," a pink-haired girl shrieked from across the room. She wore a pink dress skirt and had green eyes. This was Sakura Haruno, a kunoichi, a female ninja from the same village of Naruto. "Shut up, Sakura," Naruto replied. "This kid is getting on my nerves, going on about how we don't know anything about pain. Pain is all I've ever known," he said out loud so everyone in the room could hear. "What do you mean you know anything about pain? You're a ninja, you have a family, live in a nice village and have respect. We have nothing. I have nothing," the boy yelled out, making Naruto growl with anger. "No, you have something I don't. You have a grandfather I don't. You have a mother I don't. You had a father I never met him or my mother. I am an orphan, you little brat," he told the boy. "Inari, just so you know, I am not respected. In fact, I am the most hated person in my village," he told Inari, who was fighting back the tears. "I have been neglected, abused, and abandoned by everyone in Konoha all my life. So all I know is pain. You have the one thing I have always prayed for, asked for, and wanted. You have a family. So before you think you know pain, I want you to know this: no matter how bad you think you are, there is always someone someplace. There will be someone worse off than you. In fact, there are nine people who have been treated like me, all for a reason we had no control over." Inari started crying as Naruto got up and walked to the door. "Naruto, where are you going?" asked a boy the same age as Naruto, who black hair that had spiked backwards, looking like a duck's butt. "Going for a walk, then going to try climbing that tree again. I just got to blow off some steam. I'll be back later," he replied before walking out of the room and into the night. Time skip 2 hours later. Naruto walked past the window, crouched low so no one would see him. He was out longer than he thought and decided to sneak back into the house so he wouldn't wake anyone up. Passing the living room window, he noticed the window was open. Ignoring it, he started to continue walking but stopped when he started to hear voices. "Where is that loser?" he heard the familiar voice of his female teammate. Naruto frowned at what Sakura said about him, but he decided to let it slide as he was used to it. "Why do you care about that idiot? He's a weakling, a no-good orphan who is nothing compared to me," came the arrogant voice of Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto's other teammate. Naruto grit his teeth in an attempt not to shout at Sasuke. "You're right, Sasuke. Why am I even thinking about that worthless loser? He's the worst ninja ever. I mean, what ninja wears bright orange? God, he is an idiot, ha ha ha." She laughed at herself. Naruto was fuming. How could they talk to him like that? He was about to walk in and give them a piece of his mind when he heard another voice that stopped him. "Yep, Naruto is an idiot and will probably die very early as a ninja," said Naruto's sensei Kakashi Hatake before he paused and looked up from his porn. "That's what I thought when I first met him, but he showed me something that's changed my opinion of him. He showed me that he's not only got guts but that he's also a battle genius." "What do you mean Naruto's an idiot? Everyone knows that," exclaimed Sakura. "What I mean is that Naruto is good at coming up with strategies on the fly, like when I was trapped by Zabuza. If I remember, Sakura, you didn't do anything." Sakura pouted. "I am proud to have him as a student, and I think I might give him a jutsu when we get back as a reward for saving me," Kakashi said with his trademark eye smile. "But unfortunately he won't get that chance for a while," as Naruto ran off as soon as he heard Kakashi say that he was an idiot. Naruto was walking around. Well, anywhere. He didn't want to go back to Tazuna's house. He didn't want to go back to his team and he definitely did not want to go back to Konoha. After a while he found a large tree and decided to sit down and closed his eyes to for once think about to what he was going to do next. Naruto's mindscape. He awoke in a sewer with a large cage in front of him with the kanji for seal written on it. So the kid has finally come to see me, how nice. A low terrifying growl came from the dark side of the cage. So you're the Kyuubi? Naruto asked the voice. Yes kid, I am the great Kyuubi no Yoko, or Kurama to my friends and brethren. He said, opening his eyes to the young boy. Now are you here to realize me or talk? Let's talk. Naruto replied. So how come I can talk to you now and not when I was a kid? Simple, you're angry and full of negative emotions. As a child you were mostly scared and this seal restricted what I could do to you. And as you are more angry than you have ever been today, I was able to bring you here. Okay, so can you help me become stronger and get away from Konoha? Quick and straight to the point, I like that. Yes kid, I can help you get away from that vile place which is too arrogant and foolish to know the difference between a giant, nine-tailed fox and a short blonde-haired kid. But first you need to do something for me. Think of it as a way to seal the deal. What do I have to do? Naruto asked. All you have to do is rip a small bit of the seal so I can see what you see and give you advice on how to defeat your opponents. So how much do I have to take of? A piece the size of a thumbnail should do it for the sight, and when that's done I will deal with the mental link. So about this much? He asked as he ripped a small section of the seal. Good kid, good. Now come here. Kurama said to Naruto. When the boy was close enough, the fox sent a tail to Naruto's forehead. This will sting a bit, he said as he surged a small amount of his chakra into Naruto. And we're done. Now wake up and get moving. I have a plan on how we are going to get out of this mess alive. Time skip 1 hour later outside Gato's mansion. So this is the prick that's taken over the island, Naruto said to nobody before he put his hand into a familiar shadow clone jutsu. He said as hundreds of Narutos puffed into existence. Let's give him a little VIST. They yelled as they charged into the mansion. Half an hour later, Gato's room. Naruto kicked the door of its hinges and walked into the room to find and kill Gato. With Kurama's help he had been able to kill, knock out or frighten all the bandits in his way, especially since Kurama had showed him the clone explosion and shuriken clone techniques. This helped him greatly as he had no chance of defeating them all by himself. Come out Gato, it will be easier for me if you stop hiding. Naruto yelled out, waiting for his prey to come out of hiding. A small brown-haired man came out into the open. He wore a tailor-made suit and black rounded glasses. Hello, what do you want, punk? The man asked. Wait, you're Gato. Yes, I am Gato. Ha ha ha, I thought you would at least look intimidating, but this is something else. How the people of this island are scared of you, I have no idea. Naruto said with a gap between words as he was too busy laughing at the man in front of him. What do you want? The tyrant asked. Nothing much, just your head and the people of Wave to be free. The orange-clad shinobi replied. Zori, Waraji, get in here, Gato yelled as the door on the other side of the room opened and a man walked out. He had white hair, black eyes and markings under eyes. He wore a dark-colored hat and had a blue jacket on with a katana strapped to his waist. Where's Waraji? Gato asked. I don't know, the merc replied. Oh, you mean this guy? Their attention was brought to the orange-clad genin who threw something towards the floor in front of them. What he threw was the severed head of someone that had a small beard, scars on his face, an eye patch over his right eye. It was Waraji, but no, he was also missing his left eye because the hilts of his katana were was the eye should be. I'll kill you. Zori roared as he unsheathed his katana and charged at Naruto, who brought out a kunai and blocked the attack. Zori looked down at the blonde and was surprised to see the smirking at him. What you smiling at? Nothing, just thinking about lunch. Arg die, he said as he stabbed Naruto through the stomach. Naruto fell to the floor as the blade was ripped out of him. Boom, was the last word the boy uttered as he exploded, sending Zori flying into the air. The real Naruto jumped down from the ceiling and slit the man's throat with a kunai. Now it's your turn, Gato. Naruto said as he landed, pivoted and readied his kunai, blood still dripping from it. Please all give, he didn't even get to finish as Naruto had slit his throat. Now on to phase 2, Naruto said to himself as he walked away from the room. A wad of cash in his had the safe open with half of its contents gone. Naruto walked out into the moonlight sky, took a deep breath, he removed his jacket, stabbed a few holes in it and threw it back inside. Next he removed his headband, took one last look at it and threw into the building. He walked a few more yards before put his hands into a seal. The building behind him exploded and with it the country of Wave and himself were free from the nightmare they lived in. Kakashi and the rest of his team had heard the explosion and rushed over to where it came from, hoping to find the blonde-haired genin where Kakashi was. When they got to the remains of the mansion, they were shocked to see all the bodies that littered the ground. Who did this? Questioned a pink-haired girl. I don't know. Do you think the Dobi could have done this? Said Sasuke Uchiha in an annoyed tone. That the loser had defeated all these opponents by himself was just wrong. He had to have help. Naruto was a loser, so how could he, a ninja that couldn't do a simple clone jutsu, yet here in the ruins of a tyrant's mansion covered in corpses and rubble? How could he have done this? How? Looks like that little brat of yours got himself into more trouble than he could handle, ha ha ha. Came the voice that sent a chill down the rookies' backs. It was Zabuza Momochi. He was a topless man that had short spiky black hair and small eyebrows. He had bandages covering his mouth like a scarf and baggy pants. His blade Kubikiribocho was on his back. What do you mean? What has happened to Naruto? Kakashi asked nervously, hoping his student was okay. If you want to know where he is, his headband is next to you, girly. You mean? She said as she picked up the headband. Yep, and here is his jacket, he continued as he threw it in front of them. Did you do this to Naruto? Kakashi said, anger in his voice. He lifted up his headband ready to fight and avenge his student's death. As much as I want to kick your lazy ass, I didn't kill the kid. My guess is he got captured, escaped and decided to blow himself and everyone else up with him to keep you guys safe. You should be glad because of him I won't have to kill you. Zabuza said, chuckling at the end. Haku were leaving, and with that Akiri Hunter Nin jumped down and landed next to Zabuza. They both turned around and walked off. Looks like he's really gone. Let's get his remains or a burial, then we will go back to Tazuna's and finish the mission and go home. Said Kakashi in a depressingly fighting of the tears. The Hokage is going to kill me. Then when I die I'll have to face Sensei, and worst of all Kushina, I'll never get to rest in peace. Kakashi thought as he walked back to the house. The mission was a success, but at the cost of his student's life. He realized that he was wrong in his way of only teaching Sasuke like the council wanted. It cost his student's life and now it ruined his future, mostly in the afterlife. Naruto's location. It had been a day since Naruto ran away using basic ninja stealth and survival skills. He had snuck aboard a small fishing boat that went to the mainland. From there he tree jumped to the nearest town to find an inn to sleep in. When Naruto woke up he realized what he did last night and decided that he had to stay away from Konoha. He had to make sure no one from Konoha found him, and looking at his ruined, cut up and bloody outfit he decided his best bet would be to get some new clothes. But first he needed a shower, he absolutely reeked from last night. After getting out the shower, putting his old clothes back on and getting a breakfast that wasn't ramen, he decided to have a look around town for the clothes shop he needed. As he opened the door to the shop he was welcomed by a 40-looking-year-old man. The man had short black with bits of gray in it. He was a skinny man that wore an all-business smile. He wore a pair of black pants with a white shirt. Hello, welcome to my store, have a look around and come to me if you need anything else, lad. And with that he walked to the back of the shop to let Naruto pick out his outfit. After walking around the store and trying on clothes for what seemed like hours, Naruto finally picked out some new clothes to wear. They were 4 t-shirts, 1 white, 1 black, 1 red and finally 1 orange. He also picked out two pairs of pants, one a green cargo pants and the other a pair of black shinobi pants. As well as that he had 3 new jackets, 2 hoodies, one black and the other gray, with the third in the same style of his old one but green. Finishing his outfit was a scarf to cover the whisker marks on his face because he would be in a lot of trouble if Konoha realized he was still alive. Walking up to the store owner, he realized something was missing from his new outfits. "Can I buy these please?" Naruto asked the store owner. "Yes you can," he said as he started to till up the items. "Is there anything else you would like? We can now put patterns or symbols on some of these items for you." And with that, Naruto's eyes lit up, asking for a piece of paper to draw the symbol he wanted. When he got it, he drew the old swirl design from his old outfit and asked if it could be put on the back of all of the t-shirts he's buying. After being told it'll take a couple of hours to do, Naruto decided to walk around the town for a bit and see what else he could do. After walking and window shopping for about an hour and a half, his nose caught a sniff of a familiar aroma. "Ramen!" Naruto shouted mentally as his nose led him to his favorite food. He bumped into a massive man. The guy had dark skin, white hair and a white goatee. He had on a pair of oval sunglasses, and a one-strap white flak jacket and a red rope-like belt around his waist. "Hey, watch where you're going," Naruto said, getting quieter as he spoke, realizing that the guy had biceps the bigger than his head, and with what looked to be 7 swords on his back he knew this guy was tough, and when he saw the Cloud Village headband he knew this guy was also very, very strong. "Sorry about that, didn't see where I was going, have a nice day," Naruto said as he got up and scrambled out of there. "What a wired kid, yo, didn't even say hello." The man raped to himself. "I am awful at rap, so don't blame me if it's crap." "Hey B, that kid, he felt familiar," came a voice inside B's head. "What do you mean? Hachabi looked like a brat to me," B again tried to rap. "What I mean is that I think that kid is a Jinchuriki like you," Hachabi said. "He looked pretty normal to me, Hachabi. He has whisker marks on his face, do you think that's normal?" "Well, no that you mention it. Just hurry up and follow him. If my suspicions are right, then he has my older brother sealed inside of him, and I'm sure Yugito would love to have a Jinchuriki friend that's her age." When B snapped back into the real world, he quickly followed the trail that the kid left, and was surprised to see him eating a bowl of what looked like ramen with 4 other bowls piled up beside him. "Thanks for the food," the blonde said, leaving a few notes down before walking out of the restaurant. B, being the ever-clever ninja he is, decided to wait for the kid outside the restaurant. That was until Hachabi told him to acutely be a ninja and follow the kid stealthy. So B jumped to the top of the building and followed Naruto from the rooftops to the clothing store Naruto was at before. 5 minutes later, Naruto walked, and felt as if someone was following him. He quickly dashed to the inn he was in before to change into his new clothes, deciding to wear his new black t-shirt and green pants. He decided to spend the next few hours in his room and talk to Kurama. So he closed his eyes and entered his mindscape. Naruto opened his eyes to find himself in a familiar sewer with a cage at the end, and behind that cage was Kurama, eyes closed as if he was asleep, but Naruto knew he was awake. "Hey Kurama, what do you want, kid? I came to say thank you for the other day. If it wasn't for I would still be a Konoha ninja, so is there anything I could do for you?" "Well kid, you could always change this damn mindscape of yours. A sewer is too cramped for my liking, so could you improve it by changing it for me? I don't now a field, a few trees, a mountain and a lake, that should do it for me." "So a few trees, a field, a mountain and a lake, and how am I supposed to do that?" "It's your mind, just imagine it and it should happen." And with that, Naruto closed his eyes and thought of a large green field with a giant tree in the middle. Across from the tree was a large mountain with a waterfall coming down that led into a crystal clear lake. Surrounding the area were trees, lots of trees. "Good kid, good. I liking you more and more every day. Oh, just so you know, you've been being followed for a while now." "I thought so. More importantly, it's by the jailer of my brother, the Eight Tails." Noticing the confused look on Naruto's face, Kurama decided to tell him who it was. It was that Kumo shinobi you ran into then away from. I can't have a weak vessel, so you will have to get stronger. And the best bet is to find that guy and ask him if you can join Kumo. That will help us out and will also rub it into Konoha face as they hate that village as much. Iwa. Okay, I'll go and find him. No bye. And with that, Naruto awakened in the real world and prepared to find his fellow Jinchuriki. It didn't take long, as all Naruto had to do was walk to the outskirts of town and wait for his fellow Jinchuriki to catch up. I know you have been following me and I want answers to why and to ask you a few questions myself. A second later, a man jumped down and introduced himself to Naruto. Yo yo yo, I'm Killer B. I'm so fly, motherfuckers can't see, yeah. Okay, what did you say? I've been told by my friend you hold the 9-0 whilst I, my friend, have the 8-0, yeah. So you're a Jinchuriki like me and your name is Killer B. I'm Naruto Uzumaki and I have a question for you. Ask away, little 9. I'm sure I can answer your question just fine. Can I go with you to Kumo and become a ninja there? You have risked a lot in a big bet, but I'm sure my brother will let you in, no sweat. Killer B raped before taking a book out and writing all his previous raps down, saying they were too good to forget. Naruto at this sweat dropped, hoping not every other person in Kumo was like that. So little bro, do you want to go? No, I booked a room at an inn for tonight and I am pretty hungry, so how about tomorrow since I also need to pack? Okay, I will see you later. First thing in the morning, alligator B wrapped and tree jumped back to the village with Naruto following behind. Tucking himself to sleep, he looked back at today's events and looked onwards to the future. Tomorrow was going to be a good day, he thought. Finally, I will be able to become a great shinobi. It had been 2 days since Naruto and B left for Kumo. During that time, Naruto and B swapped life stories. B was surprised at the life his fellow Jinchuriki had to live. He himself had a bad time, but hell, everyone thought Konoha was the best place to live, apparently not for an orphan Jinchuriki, or any Jinchuriki in fact. After a few more hours of tree hopping and an extra hour of mountain climbing, they reached the gates of Kumo, which unlike Konoha's were made out of stone, not wood. Cool, Naruto said, amazed at the sight of the ninja village before him. Yep, little bro. Nothing is as cool as Kumo, said Killer B, failing at his raping style again. Somewhere a blonde-haired, blue-eyed female genin sneezed. Someone's copying my catchphrase, she thought to herself before going back to practicing katas for her tanto. So B, when are we going to meet the Raikage and can you no trap the ensuer? Naruto asked, saying the last part as fast as he can. We going to meet my big bro now, ya fool, and I always rap, that's my rule, yeah. Killer B replied again in the form of his annoying Inca rap whilst smacking Naruto in the back of the head to hard, making him fall over. What was that for? Naruto asked whilst rubbing the back of his head in pain. And why do you keep calling the Raikage big bro? I slapped you, brat, cause you dissed my rap. I'll have you know it is awesome, not crap. Only to you, idiot. Oh Hachi, why do you have to be so mean? Everyone knows my raps are so keen. Don't call me Hachi. Why couldn't I be sealed in a normal person? Don't be so quick to diss it. I know secretly you like it. Ooh yeah. Hey B, you there? Hello Earth to Killer B. Hey B, wake the hell up. Naruto shouted whilst shaking his fellow Jinchuriki furiously in the middle of the street, making the civilians and a couple Anbu laugh at the scene. Stop shaking me, brat. Or do you want a smack? Oh yeah. Naruto sweat dropped at B's bad rap. Come on, let's go. Naruto said, tugging Killer B's shirt, who smacked him for touching him again, this time all the way down the street. Naruto groaned as he got up before running after his fellow Jinchuriki. After a few more minutes of walking, they reached the door of the Raikage Tower, with, unlike Konoha, was a building all on its own. This one was built into the tallest mountain of the village. In fact, plenty of the houses know that he thought of it were built into mountains. Well, when life gives you lemons, in this case mountains make something useful. After scaling the many steps to the Raikage office, they were met by a very formal-looking woman. She had dark skin like many people in Kumo and green eyes. She also has light gray hair that was pulled back into a bun, with two bangs that fall across both sides of her face. Naruto guessed she was the Raikage assistant since you don't really call a girl your big bro, you stupid mofo as B put it. Hey Mabui-chan, can we see my main man? And at this Mabui sweat dropped. Sure she has known B for a long time, both of them were in the same academy class as kids and been friends since then, hell if it wasn't for B she wouldn't have her current job. But still his rap was annoying. Yes B you can see the Raikage, but first I must ask why. Mabui replied seeing that it was strange that he has asked for permission to see the Raikage usually he would walk straight in after saying hello, sometimes just walking through the door ignoring her or even once where he did an A and smashed through the window. Well first off I gotta follow the rule, and report my mission you fool. Okay but why did you call me a fool you usually walk past me and barge into a office when you have completed a mission. Aw well that's part 2 I've got a little buddy who has to see him too. Oh and who is you friend B? Hi, Naruto Uzumaki nice to meet you, Naruto said reviling himself to Mabui. Even though Mabui was a serious shinobi the female part of almost came out and forced her to kawi and smother the boy in a giant hug when she saw his fox-like features and amazingly cute smile. But she was a professional and simply replied with, well hello Naruto call me Mabui, no why do you want to see the Raikage? I am a runaway from my old village. I come looking for a home and to become a ninja of your village. Now you know the brat story, you needn't worry. Mabui huffed before guiding them to the Raikage office. After knocking twice and getting permission to enter she opened the door and ushered them inside. When Naruto saw he was shocked that someone had even bigger muscles than B I mean seriously they're huge, Naruto thought to himself. The Raikage looked about 30 years old and had combed back white hair, a small mustache and beard also white. He was topless showing his massive 8-pack. He was doing paper work with his right hand and lifting weights with his left hand. Naruto was staring at the man in awe seriously how the hell you get muscles so big. His thoughts though were interrupted by his fellow Jinchuriki. You big bro, I'm back yo. And at this moment everybody in the room who wasn't B, the hidden Anbu included, sweat dropped. Ah B you're back, tell me how did the mission go? Said a looking up from his much hated paperwork for a slight break. Mission complete, take the guy name of the list, cause everybody knows Killer B is the elite. Ooh yeah. That's good to hear B no show me the guy's head. And at that moment B brought a scroll out of his packet unsealed it and presented the head of his target to the Raikage. Good that's good Mabui, he said staring at the head of the no dead missing. Yes sir what do you need? Mabui asked as she hurried over to the Raikage desk. Take this traitor's head and put it in traitor's grave like the rest, then give B the bounty of 250,000 Ryo yen and that would be all for now. Don't know the actual currency they use, if you know just send us a message of what it is or write it in a review. Yes Raikage-sama, and with that she took the head, the scroll and ran downstairs to complete the task. As soon as she had turned around B was looking at her ass until she was out of sight. A had returned to his work but had swapped hands this time doing the paperwork with his left and lifting the weight with his right. B coughed getting the Raikage attention. Yo big bro, we need to talk, in incognito now. B said getting the Raikage attention, so a huffed figuring it was something to do with a vacation or something. B how many times do I have to tell you you're not having a vacation? Tell your Anbu to leave. He walked towards his brother's desk and started to whisper the rest into his ear. And I'll tell you about my friend from the leaf. As soon as B stepped away, give his Anbu the signal to leave and turned towards his brother, and for the first time since his brother got here, he noticed a short, scrawny, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, whiskered marked kid in his office. B. Who is this little brat in my office? So you met my friend the little brat here is the friend from the leaf I was talking about. And why is he here? He wants to join Kumo, so that's the problemo. And why should I let him join Kumo? Looks nothing but a little brat to me, probably thinks neon orange is the best color to be a ninja with. He said snickering at the end. Because I have something I think you would like, Naruto said, speaking up for the first time today. Really, and what would that be? The power of a Buji. I already have two, why should I accept you? Which one do you have? The Kyuubi. Wait, what? I said I have the Kyuubi sealed inside of me. And at this, A's jaw hit the floor. The power of the nine tails in his village, he had to let this kid join. No. On the other side of the room, B was on the floor laughing at his brother's face. Okay, brat, you have my attention, A said, finally getting his jaw back to its original position. But may I ask why you decided to join Kumo, and where did you run away from? Okay, as you know, my name is Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki to be exact. An orphan. I was originally a Konoha genin, and my time in Konoha itself wasn't great. I was abused, starved and ignored. My team thought I was a waste of space, and my sensei only cared about the village's damned last Uchiha. At this, Naruto started to growl at the memories. On a mission in Wave Country, I faked my death and ran away. I met B a few days later, and he said I should join Kumo. And with that, Naruto finished his story and looked at a slightly pissed off A. So Konoha abuses an orphan child, because of his power, yet praises another. Kid, I will let you join Kumo. You will be a ninja and you will be trained by B, a few of my best operatives and me. But first I need to see what skills you have. So wait here and B, bring your team and Yugito here, I believe they would like to see their new training buddy. You got it, bro. Time to show Naruto the best squad in Kumo. And with that, B sushined away to get his students. Naruto, I have one last question for you. Do you know how to wield a sword? Karui, don't do that, it's so uncool. Shut it, Samui, or I'll beat you up like I did to that Naruto kid. Karui retorted. Hey, I'm right here, Naruto said, cutting in. Who cares? Wait a minute, what did you mean by tenant? Karui asked impatiently. Well, you see, I'm the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Naruto said, very timidly, scared out of his mind at what their reaction would be. Wait, what? Don't tell me that is the reason why you were allowed in, said Yugito, rage filling every word. I guess, Naruto said in fear of her reaction. Who gave you the idea of joining Kumo? She asked again. Killer B did. And with that, Yugito exploded, calling B a traitor for not training her, and Naruto many names for being alive and coming to Kumo. Maybe it would have been better to live on my own. Maybe it would have been, said Naruto's tenant, adding voice to the equation. What's your problem with me being a Jinchuriki? Naruto asked, wondering what her problem is. My problem is that B is supposed to be training me to control the two tails. Now he will spend all his time on you and leave me to dry. At this, everyone looked down in disappointment. There was a small chance that might happen, but everyone knew she was ignored in the academy by a few of the teachers. I won't D. He was cut off from saying that he wouldn't steal their sensei, but Samui interrupted him. Trying to steal our sensei? You are so not cool, she said in her usual cold voice, but to Naruto it seemed like all those looks in his old village and names came back to him at full force. Tears started to rise as he kept getting told where to go and how vile and evil he is for stealing their sensei. Omoi looked at Samui and frowned. She was usually the level-headed one in the team, but then he remembered that she and Yugito were close. Most people called them Kumo's ice sisters for their cold personality to men and the fact that they were almost always together. Omoi couldn't see anything wrong with Naruto. He seemed like a decent guy, and he knew that Jinchuriki in other villages was treated worse than the plague. Yugito only had a small problem with people in Kumo. Only a small minority hated her for being a Jinchuriki. Most people respected them for fact that they kept the demon sealed inside them from running wild and killing everyone. And by the look on Naruto's face, he had a really bad time where he used to live. Fine, if you want me here, I'll leave, Naruto yelled before setting off into a sprint towards the gate, out of the training grounds and probably out of the village. Tears falling of his cheek with every step he took. Good riddance, Yugito said, glad the whiskered kid ran off crying. Yugito, that wasn't very nice, the two tails said, telling her jailer off. Who cares? She said to the fiery cat, not really in the mood to listen to her. Brats, why has Naruto run off? Came the voice of the muscular Raikage and he sounded pretty pissed. Who cares? We told him Kumo doesn't need a sensei thief and that he shouldn't be here. Hopefully he is running back to the village he belongs to. Yugito, you fool, you made me sound so uncool. Said B disappointer equals D in the girl. Yeah, Yugito, what would happen if he lets the Kyuubi free or dies and the first thing it goes after is Kumo, then B dies fighting it realizing the 8 tails as well, then together they destroy Kumo realizing the Nibi and then. Omoi, shut up! Screamed Karui before smacking him on the back of his head. B, go get Naruto, you're the only one he trusts, I'll punish your team for their stupidity. Said his anger rising at what the genin said. Gotcha big bro, just don't kill the fools you know. B rapped before heading off to find the whiskered blonde. Now for you 4, did you really think Naruto would steal my brother from teaching you? He said, and at seeing their faces seemed to believe that was the case he snapped at them. Well, you are wrong. At this point all the genins were shaking in fear of their pissed of cage. Yugito, I know you want to be able to control the Nibi, but you wouldn't have stated learning how to master its power until you were at least 15. And for you 3, Naruto wouldn't be training with you for a few months while I whip him into shape. At this they all gulped, 1 in fear and 2 for the fact that they had forgotten one of the most important lessons taught at the academy. Never make a rash decision about someone, you never know when it will bite you in the ass. And another thing, none of you have had as bad of a childhood as Naruto has. Yugito, you only had a small fraction of people hate you because of what you carry. Naruto has had it much, much worse. What do you mean, how did he have it worse? Said Karui, wondering what went wrong in his life to make him come here. Unlike Yugito or B is seen as now, where they are considered heroes and a lot of people respect you for what you are burdened with. In most villages even this one until B mastered his Buji, a Jinchuriki is the most unwanted and hated person in the village. A gasp came from the genin as they were told what most Jinchuriki have to live with. And Naruto had it worse. He told me that he was ignored by everyone, and was told to stay away from them. Hell, the parents of the children his age told their children to leave Naruto alone. He was undertrained at the academy and lived in one of the worst parts of his village. He had no real friends and his own teammates saw him as burden and openly ridiculed him, believing they were better without him. That is why he ran away, he couldn't take the loneliness and hate. Then genin looked down in sadness. How could anyone live a life like that? The 2 that looked most sad after listening to A's words were Samui and Yugito, who were the one that made the blonde run away. Again. You mean that I or B could have lived like that if we weren't a part of Kumo? Said Yugito in shock of what happened to her fellow Jinchuriki. Suddenly losing a sensei didn't seem that bad. You would have, B did, the only people he had was me and my father. Naruto had no family, he was an orphan from birth. The Kyuubi sealed inside him on that day, and with no one wanting to care for him, there are only a few options left. One is go mad from the loneliness, a few more involve his death by various means, mass murder, keep trying to get accepted, or do what he did, run away and start a new life somewhere else. Said the Raikage in a more somber tone before finishing it with one question aimed at all 4 of them, mostly to Yugito, who was on the verge of tears realizing she was in the wrong about all the things she said about her fellow Jinchuriki. So was Samui, who couldn't believe that she lost her cool like that. What would any of you do if you were in that position? Asked, to his point finally getting across to the young ninja. Immediately Yugito burst out crying, followed by Samui. Karui and Omoi were shocked at this. These 2 never cried. Samui, we need to find Naruto and apologize. Said Yugito, fighting through the tears. Samui quickly agreed and they both shot off after their sensei. Same time with Naruto. Well, we've seemed to have overstayed our welcome. I've got my backpack and supplies. I think it's time we set up and find a place to truly call home. Naruto said to the fox mentally. I still think we should stay, but I can't really force you to stay here. Said Kurama, still thinking that this was a bad idea. Naruto was walking down the streets towards the main gates. He wasn't a civilian or a ninja of Kumo, so he could get through easily by saying we was just stopped for a spot of lunch and get out of there. Then he would run to the border, cross into neutral territory, and he would be safe. Well, that was the plan. He hoped that Killer Bee wouldn't find him, as he was the only person he liked in the village. As long as no ninja went after him and tried to stop him, his plan would work. Naruto continued to walk to the gate. A few more minutes and he would be home free, sort of. He smiled to himself as he saw the gate, and then it happened. Someone put their hand on his shoulder. He turned around and immediately in his mind screamed, "Shit!" The one and only Killer Bee was behind him, and by the looks of it he wouldn't let Naruto go without a good reason. Little 9, look at the time, I bet your stomach's rumbling like mine. Rapped Bee with a smile on his face before taking out a book and a pencil and wrote it down. Before Naruto could argue, Bee shunshined them both to a small restaurant. Arriving at the restaurant, Naruto looked up to see the name of the place, Daizen's Meat Shack. He said before Bee pushed him into the restaurant and sat him on a table. Naruto took a quick look around the place. The room was pretty dark, lit by several low brightness bulbs. It had 2 floors, with them being sat at a table on the 2nd floor. The restaurant wasn't that busy, so it didn't take long for someone to come to the table. It was a young woman, late teens, 16 maybe 17, dark-skinned, long white hair, blue-eyed. Pretty good looking if Naruto said so himself. "Hello, welcome Daizen's, may I take your order please?" she asked with a pen and notepad out ready. "Yeah, I'll take a black pepper beef stew, and the kid will have a chicken fillet with sides." "Thank you for ordering, I'll be back shortly with your food." And with that she left. "I could have ordered my own food, you know," said Naruto in a slightly annoyed tone. "This place doesn't serve ramen, and we need to put some meat on your bones or else you won't be a good ninja. You can't eat only ramen, it's not that good for you." "Whatever," Naruto muttered to himself, annoyed that he was getting told what he should and should not eat. Who was this guy that said he could not eat ramen, the greatest food in the world? Shame on him. "So kid, I saw you were in a rush to go, but why, I want to know?" Rapped Bee with a smile on his face. "Well, you heard your team, they want me to go." Naruto looked down as he said this, memories of what happened a few minutes ago still floating around in his head. "So I took their advice and ran. It seems that's all I can do nowadays, run away. You know, I thought it would be different here. You told me Jinchuriki were respected, but I guess no one will respect me because of Kurama. I still believe you force them to respect you. If you used a little bit of my power, that busty blonde would be dead in an instant, and the Nibby container has no chance, her pathetic 2 tails against my mighty 9. "Shut up. Talking to the 9 tails. With its power you will never fail," said Bee in his usual Inca style. "I don't want its power, all it's caused me is misery and pain, and all it wants to do is cause more misery and pain." "Damn straight. Hey, snap out of it, you fool. The food is here and it's not cruel," said Bee, making Naruto forget what he was about to tell Kurama, and after looking at it suspiciously he took a bite. Liking the taste, he dug into the chicken, rice and beans, thinking it was one of the best things he has ever tasted, second only to various types of ramen. After eating the meal with Bee paying, they got up to leave. During the meal, Bee tried a few times to make Naruto reconsider and stay in the village, but with what the people he was supposed to work with thought of him, it wasn't going to be a good team. Bee and Naruto walked towards the gate chatting away. Naruto told Bee he was glad that they met and he would probably one of Naruto's first and best friends. At hearing Bee started to cry a bit and put Naruto into an extremely tight bear hug. "Bee too tight, can't breathe," Naruto said whilst being crushed by the older Jinchuriki, his face going blue with the lack of oxygen entering his body. If it wasn't for the Hachabi, Bee would have crushed Naruto. "Well, see you, Bee," Naruto said as he walked towards the gate. In the end, Bee decided that it was for the best, as by the looks of it would seem like nothing would really change for the blonde, so he decided to escort him to the gate and see him off. "Sensei, there you are. Where's Naruto? We're here to apologize to him. We acted stupidly and want to make it up to him," said Yugito, breaking Bee out of his thoughts on what he should put in his rap about Naruto. "He be crossing the gate any minute. Hopefully you fools can make him quit it." And with that, both Samui and Yugito rushed off to stop Naruto from leaving the village. They quickly caught up with him as he was walking at a civilian's pace. When they found him, they grabbed him, forced him to turn around and face them. Naruto were. This time the blondes were cut off by Naruto, who said, "Look, you got your wish, I am leaving, or what did you come here to rub it into my face that I'm not wanted anywhere, and it's a good thing that I am going, because save it, I have heard words like that time and time again. Just if I were you, I would save the effort and let me go," he said, tugging his arms out of the girl's arm when he said the last few words. He turned to walk away when they both shouted, "We're sorry." He turned around now, he wasn't expecting that. "Wait, what do you mean?" he asked, hesitation in his voice, hoping they meant it. If they did, B would have won the bet they made during their meal, and that meant he would have to stay. As Naruto Uzumaki wouldn't go back on a promise, and he did promise that he would stay if they apologized before he left. "What we mean was that we were being really uncool earlier with what we said, and we hope you can accept our apology," said Samui, her voice still pretty cold, but it had a bit more emotion in it than last time. "Yeah, we're sorry, we didn't mean it, we were misinformed and misjudged you, because I was being arrogant and stupid. We hope you can forgive us." After saying this, Naruto stated to walk, but this time he didn't walk towards the main gate, this time he walked down the street to a smiling B. "You won the bet, I guess that means I'm staying," said Naruto as he continued walking to the Raikage Tower. "Samui, Yugito, let's go, we have work to do," said B as the two ran up to their sensei. "Even though you got Naruto back, it would only have worked with my plan of attack." And at this, both blonde girls' sweat dropped. A few minutes later, Raikage office. "So Naruto, you have decided to stay, I suppose," said A in his usual macho tone. "Yep, lost a bet to your brother. If he won, I would stay, and if I won, he would make me 100, Ryo," replied Naruto, a small smile on his face. "And what was the bet?" asked A, wondering what made Naruto willing to stay. "The bet was that if Yugito and Samui apologized before I managed to get 1 mile away from the village. And luckily for the both of us, they did." A burst out laughing at this. He guessed that one day he would go out with one of them when he was older, and the fact that something so simple was able to keep the brat in his village, he would just have to make sure no one tried to force him to leave. The kid had something, I could see it, he just couldn't put his finger on what it was. Well, time would tell, but first he opened a drawer on his desk and pulled something out. "Naruto, I want you to have this," said as he withdrew his hand from the drawer, a cloud headband coming out with it. He placed it on the desk and gestured for Naruto to take it. Naruto picked it up and looked at it for a moment. He smiled before putting it on. "Looks good on you. No, I suggest you get some rest. Starting from tomorrow, your training begins, got it?" said in a half-hearted yet completely serious tone that meant lots of pain was coming Naruto's way. "Gotcha," was his only reply as he turned to walk out of the office. He opened the door before he realized something important, and something only an idiot would forget. "Wait a minute, where am I supposed to live?" It has been a month since Naruto had officially joined Kumo, and in that week Naruto was very busy. Lariat was heard by everyone in the village today again. This was the sound that a few ninjas started to use as an alarm clock in the morning. Ahhhhhhhh, thump was what followed. This had become Naruto's usual training routine. Right now he was learning taijutsu, endurance and reflexes, and for the he couldn't even remember what number it was time today Naruto had been sent flying by the Raikage. No, if you thought that I was using the lightning realize armor for these attacks, then you would be mistaken. No, all he was using was pure strength and maybe a little chakra, and that was it. "You're too slow, Naruto. At that speed you are going to have trouble against a pet dog or an academy student. How do you expect to become a threat to your enemies if you can't dodge?" said A before he charged at the last word, arm raised back to bunch the young blonde through another set of trees. Acting instinctively, Naruto rolled under the Raikage's swing, effectively gaining him some breathing room. "Good work, Naruto, you managed to dodge 20 of the 100 strikes to come your way. For that you deserve a drink." "Thanks, sensei." Naruto huffed as he walked over to the water bottles at the other end of the training field. He quickly opened the bottle and drank half of it before opening the top and pouring it over his head to cool. He caught his breath. Naruto became to reflect on his early morning training and his schedule for the day. First thing at 5:30 a.m. Naruto got up, ate a light breakfast, got changed and met up with the Raikage at training ground 17 at 6:15. Here they would spar. If sparring is what you call nearly getting decapitated for an hour, he would go and get a proper breakfast and wait and relax for a bit before coming back here to train in Kenjutsu with Darui. He would do this till lunch, then he would have 2 hours break, then back to the Raikage for either ninjutsu or more taijutsu training. They would do this till 7, where Naruto would have dinner, then spend the rest of the day at home. The same pattern repeated day in and day out. Okay, not always the same pattern. Sometimes he had genjutsu practice from some guy called C who kept calling him a dog for some reason. Naruto huffed thinking about it. He wondered, was he really getting stronger from all this training? Well, he had learned the basics of kenjutsu, which is a rare thing in Konoha. He also knew water walking. He was also slightly faster considering he now was wearing half of his body weight in training weights, 20 kg, situated on his arms, legs and torso. He hadn't learned any ninjutsu yet, which annoyed him greatly since he knew he had wind and lightning affinities, but as a had put it, you could have hundreds of jutsu, but if you're fighting a much faster and skilled opponent, they would be useless as they would kill you before you get the chance. So that put him down a bit, but it made sense really. When he was in wave against Zabuza, he only survived because his opponent wasn't being serious. If he faced someone who was serious about the battle and much more skilled than Naruto, then he would be dead at his old speed. Naruto took a couple more gulps before standing up and getting ready to continue his training. Naruto's thoughts turned back to Konoha. By now he would have had his funeral properly, only a few would show up, he thought. He then smiled, remembering here he had a sensei willing to train him. He also had more than friends. Omoi was properly his best friend. He may overthink every situation, but he was good company. Karui was the same as when they spared, hot-headed and always quick to chip in if he was getting a roasting of someone, but unlike his old teammates, she meant it as a joke. Samui and Yugito, he didn't know really where they stood. They were nice to him, helped him improve his flaws, of which there were many. But they were still pretty cold to him. Omoi told him it was just in their nature and they have a much warmer side to them. When Naruto asked him has he seen it, he said, not yet, but hopefully one day they will. But what if on that day we're on a mission and on that mission we're attacked by an S-ranked ninja? And he kills Karui, and as he is about to kill me, Samui and Yugito jump in to protect me, and in their dying breath they tell me what they really think, and it makes me so happy that I get up and fight. But I lose badly, and then the Nibi comes out and attacks us all. Then you join in the fry, and Naruto ended it there. It was about to get really depressing. Naruto smiled to himself before looking up at the clouds. He was going to make it no matter what. Then he would show Konoha not to mess with him, that would punish them for ignoring him for all this time. Earlier that month in Konoha, it had been a day since Naruto's burial, and at that funeral the only ones who bothered coming were the Hokage, Kakashi, Iruka, the Ichirakus, his grandson Konohamaru, and Naruto's teammates Sasuke and Sakura, but the later looked like they couldn't be bothered coming here. They could at least look depressed. Now in training ground 7 stood all of this year's genin teams and their teachers, as well as Team Guy, wondering what was so important that they all had to be there. After a few minutes of waiting, the Hokage turned up, followed by his Anbu with Kakashi Hatake in between them, covered in chains, being held by the last two Anbu. Hiruzen walked into the center of the training field and told his Anbu to let go of Kakashi. He turned to face the rest of the shinobi there before opening his mouth to speak. If you are wondering why you are here, it is to show you the punishment I give to Jonin to ignore their students and leave them to die. Who died? Asked a messy brown-haired, black pupils and 2 red fang-like tattoos, one on each cheek. He was wearing a gray jacket which was lined with fur and same color pants. This was Inuzuka Kiba. Troublesome, but by looking at the one genin missing and Kakashi being in chains, I have to guess it's Naruto who has died. said a rather lazy-looking genin by the name of Shikamaru Nara. Shikamaru was dressed in black shinobi pants. He also had on a dark green mesh t-shirt on covered by a gray jacket, his forehead protector on tied on his bicep. I knew he was weak, but to die this early is laughable. Kiba said before he could continue. He was punched in the ribs by his teammate Aburame Shino. Shino was wearing dark sunglasses, a sea green jacket, collar upturned and black pants. What was that for Shino? Kiba asked his bug-using friend. It is wrong to mock the dead. Shino replied before facing the Hokage. Shino's right, Kiba, that was very wrong of you. No Konoha shinobi has the right to disrespect a fellow dead ninja. Came the voice of the leader of Team 8 Kurenai Yuhi. She is a very beautiful woman, fairly tall, slender built with long black hair and piercing red eyes. She wore a red mesh blouse covered in a bandage-like wrapping and real bandages on her forearms and hands. From what I heard, he died killing a tyrant, keeping his team safe from an A-rank missing nin and an ex-member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. She finished before turning to face the old cage as started the actual punishment. Hiruzen took a book out of his back pocket before throwing it in front of Kakashi, who now only had a pair of handcuffs of a chakra blocking deal on his body. Kakashi, what book is this? The old cage said, his tone threatening, scaring the hell out of Kakashi and the ninja in the area, Asuma included. It's a copy of Ika Ika Paradise, sir. Kakashi replied, his tone low and sorrowful. That is correct, Kakashi. Not any old copy of Ika Ika Paradise, it is your copy of Ika Ika Paradise. Hiruzen said, making Kakashi gasp at what was to come. The Hokage took a few steps back, did a few hand signs before firing a low-level fire technique at the orange book. After a few minutes, all that was left was a few ashes. Kakashi was on the brink of tears that his precious book had been destroyed right before his eyes. But he was brought out of his miseries when the third coughed. Kakashi lifted his head and noticed that standing next to the Hokage was a human-sized silver monkey. Hiruzen, why have you summoned me? Said the monkey to his old friend. I have summoned you, Enma, to punish this foolish Jonin for letting his genin die like we just to do. Got it. The monkey said before transforming into a large black staff. This is the adamantine staff, as hard as diamonds, capable of pushing back the Kyuubi, and was one of the reasons why he was named the god of shinobi. Kakashi, I have never been a big believer in physically punishing my shinobi, but I always put my own belief aside when it comes to dealing with the death of a genin. The god of shinobi said before swinging the staff hard at Kakashi, sending him flying across the training field through the fence and sending him head first a group of boulders in the next training ground. You may all go now. Hiruzen said as the staff puffed away and walked back to the Hokage tower. With Kakashi body was stuck in the boulder. He couldn't use his chakra to get out and he was in too much pain to try to move his body. He took one more breath before passing out. When he passed out, his ghost left his body, grew wings and flew up to heaven. Kakashi was a few steps away from the gates when they were blasted open and there stood a red-head beauty wearing dark red shirt and a green skirt. This was Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto gulped at her presence, and when her hair started to split and levitate, he knew he was fucked. You owe my son your life, Databane. She yelled before punching him hard on the head, sending him back down to earth. Kakashi woke up in a hospital room screaming, I'm sorry, Kushina, I'm sorry. Waking everyone in the hospital up and giving Hiruzen a slight chuckle the next day when he had heard of Kakashi's dream. Back with Naruto in Kumo. It was getting late, the sun was setting and Naruto was walking back his apartment, his mind flashing over the events of today. The Raikage had told him that no one was going to reveal that he was here, which was a relief for Naruto. He was also told that he would have to disguise himself if he wanted to remain anonymous to Konoha ninja during missions. So Naruto had gone to the local market and bought himself some hair dye. He had just entered the apartment given to him by A. It was a small place according to A, but it was almost twice as big as Naruto's old home. The apartment was split into 5 sections. It had a kitchen, dining room with a table that was big enough for 4. The walls were painted a gray, same as the living room. The floor was wooden. The room had a large fridge next to the door, 4 countertops including a sink and an oven. On the countertops were a microwave and a toaster. He had 2 cabinets, one for plates and bowls and another for glasses and cups. One counter had 2 drawers, one with cutlery and the other with cloths and rags. In the living room were 2 chairs, both black leather and padded armchairs in front of a small set of shelves with a TV on top. The shelves were pretty bare, only a few scrolls and books on each. Supplied by A, V and Darui. On one side of the room there was a large black leather couch underneath the window. Naruto left the living room and went into the bathroom. The bathroom was pretty simple, a small room, white tile floor, cream painted walls. On the far side are the toilet and a sink next to it. On the closest corner was a shower. Naruto walked over to the sink and took an item out of the bag. It was a bottle of hair dye, color white, the most common color in Kumo, make it seem like he was a native, born and raised in Kumo. With this and a mask he should be able to hide from most Konoha ninja. After a 7-minute process where Naruto managed to go through a couple tubes of hair dye, Naruto looked in the mirror to find that he had a much lighter hair tone. He smiled to himself in the mirror before a slight glance in the reflection on the tubes worried him. Naruto quickly picked up the tubes and read over them repeatedly. Temporary hair dye was what was on the box. Shit! Naruto exclaimed as he realized that his master plan has been ruined, and by his shower tomorrow morning all his hard work and cash would be for nothing. Kid, I think I can help you. The voice of Naruto's giant fox friend rang in the boy's ear. What do you mean, Kurama? What I mean is if I add a bit of my chakra it would be a more permanent fix. Cool, thanks Kurama, you're the best. Naruto replied. Kid, close your eyes and relax, this will sting a bit. The fox demon said before channeling some of its chakra towards Naruto's hair. Kurama, are you actually doing any? Ah, it burns. The whiskered blonde said. Well, he screamed the last part as the negative effect of Kurama started to make it feel like Naruto's hair was on fire. And done. So kid, what do you think of your new look? The fox said, blowing on his nails as he spoke. Sting my ass, you overgrown fur ball. Well, thank you very much. You should know that my power doesn't come cheap, it has to tax your body, so think of it as a way to pay me back for helping you. Also, if you ever want to go back to your old color, tell me and I'll sort you back out. Now leave me be, I going back to bed. And with that the strongest of the Buji went back to sleep. Quote, comma dot. Asshole. Naruto said before walking out of his bathroom and noticing that it was still pretty earlier to go to bed, so he decided to make himself some food. Next day, training ground 17. Naruto arrived at his usual training ground at the usual time of 6:30, seeing his teacher the Raikage standing there waiting for him. Hello sensei, sorry to keep you waiting, let's get down to some training. Naruto said in his usual enthusiasm. Good to see you're here. Now do your sets of press-ups, sit-ups, star jumps, squats and squat thrusts, the usual amount of 100. Then run 20 laps of the training ground with the weights you have now, and then another 10 laps with this new set of weights. The Yondaime said before showing him the new set. This set is as heavy as your current body weight, 40 kilograms. After this you will be fast enough to learn some of my special nin taijutsu style. Awesome, Naruto said as he started to do his press-ups. That kid's going to come far under my teaching, said to himself watching Naruto work. After a few minutes Naruto got onto doing his laps. A pretty bored decided to spice up Naruto's training a bit, grabbing a kunai, took aim and fired, nicking the whiskered genin on the cheek. What was that for? Naruto screamed as he dodged a few more kunai and a couple of senbon. It's evasive training. A yelled back, throwing a few more kunai at Naruto. Finally getting the idea, Naruto continued running, dodging the incoming barrage of kunai, shuriken and senbon. The hardest part was when he was right in front of the Raikage. There was only a few yards between them, and if the Yondaime wasn't holding back he would most likely be dead. Naruto was on his 19th lap and was at the other side of the training ground. Threw a kunai straight into Naruto's path. Naruto saw it coming, jumped over it. He landed and managed to make a couple more steps before Boom. The paper bomb connected to the kunai exploded, the shockwave sending Naruto flying. Naruto groaned as he got up, but he had no time to recuperate as another barrage of projectiles came flying towards him at great speed. Thinking quickly, Naruto replaced himself with a small boulder, successfully stopping himself from being squared. Naruto inwardly cheered at how awesome he was, but was brought back to reality by a screaming at him to get here. Good work, Naruto. If you are wondering why I was throwing projectiles at you, it was because unlike Konoha we realize that in our line of business shit tend to hit the fan, so I was preparing you for when that happens, because unlike Konoha we Kumo ninja are warriors designed to fight and kill for our home, unlike those tree-humping pricks in Konoha. Said, explaining his actions to Naruto, who nodded in understanding his first big mission. Wave was just that, a tyrant, an army of bandits, and an A-rank missing nin. Yep, as a ninja shit does tend to hit the fan. Now put on this much heavier set of weights and start running. Said, and Naruto did as told. He had taken of all of his weights and had just put on the arm weights when stopped him. Before you put on the new weights, give me a lap at full speed with no weights. Watched as his student got up and started running. He was much faster than the spar against Karui, and after a few weeks of this new set he will be even faster. Then had an idea. He smiled before throwing a kunai at great speed to the Jinchuriki. Naruto, seeing it coming, quickly jumped over it and started running, finishing his lap in front of A. That's good, Naruto, now put the new set on and get moving. Barked at Naruto, who quickly responded, putting the new set on. Naruto then started to feel the effects of the new weights. They were much heavier and much harder to move in, but he would not go back on his nindo. He would not quit. So he got up and started running much slower than he was before, but hey, progress takes time, patience and effort, and training in Kumo took a lot of effort. Whilst Naruto was doing his laps, a Kumo Anbu dropped down besides the waiting Raikage, quickly whispered something in his ear, then left. Smirked at the news but didn't say anything until Naruto finished doing his laps. Quickly calling him over, Naruto wasted no time and ran to his new leader. Is there something you need, sensei? Naruto asked. Yes, Naruto, I have just received an urgent message sent from a would-be ally asking us to go there for a meeting next week. Said, seeing Naruto nod his head. Naruto understood alliances were important. The Raikage told him that they currently only had one ally, and that was the nearby land of Frost and its ninja village Shimogakure. Alliances helped both countries in times of war and peace, be it economic trade or free transport, and in the worst cases aid in defending their country. And since the main way into Kumo and the Land of Lightning was through the Land of Frost, the daimyos and leaders of both countries and ninja villages have for a long time been allies. Another alliance would be a great thing for Kumo. Now don't think you would leave you here alone. You, along with Team B, Yugito and Darui and C are coming with me. Said, making the whiskered Jinchuriki smile at how he was going on his first official mission as a Kumo ninja, and it was going to be an important one. And I can't have my prized student being weak, can I? So for the rest of this week I am going to double your training. First you are going to run another 20 laps, followed by another set of 100 press-ups, sit-ups and star jumps. Then we shall have breakfast, before returning here to start your ninjutsu training. Got it? Said. Naruto took a few seconds to process it all before yelling back at the Raikage. Yes, sensei. Giddy with excitement. Then what are you waiting for? Get moving. Yelled back at Naruto, who quickly decided to start moving. That boy is going to go far. I wasn't going to teach him any ninjutsu yet for a month or two, since I wanted him to get his basics right, but for him to remain a ninja for my village I need him to be stronger so Konoha can get a good surprise if they ever find out it's him. Thought to himself, before remembering how he and Naruto found out Naruto's affinities. Flashback 2 weeks ago. Naruto was currently training with Darui in Kenjutsu. Darui was a white-haired man with dark skin and a slightly lazy look. He wore a black sleeveless top under a white one-strap flak jacket with loose black pants. He has the words lightning and water tattooed in kanji on his right and left shoulder. He was a right-hand man, one of his best kenjutsu users, the only active shinobi with the storm release bloodline and the inheritor of the third Raikage infamous Black Lightning. He was currently wielding a Bakken wooden sword instead of his usual black collapsible cleaver sword. Darui had just finished showing Naruto some basic katas used by majority of shinobi in Kumo but known by all and was now sparring with him. Naruto was proving to be good with a sword. He got the grip down after a few minutes and the first technique, cloud style, front beheading, a quick and simple slice designed to kill the opponent very quickly whilst facing them. He had got the technique down a few hours after that. It had been a week since then and Naruto had just about finished learning cloud-style reverse beheading. The technique involved spinning quickly to gain momentum for a powerful attack on an opponent behind you. Naruto had yelled out the attack whilst spinning quickly, aiming his Bakken at Darui's head, which was quickly blocked by the white-haired man before reacting quickly when he noticed Naruto's change in footwork. Darui jumped back, dodging Naruto's kick. Darui put his hand up, signaling Naruto that the spar was over. He lazily walked over to the blonde, telling him what he did right and wrong and told him that his kick at the end was a move worthy of a ninja. Darui went to his pocket before dragging out a piece of paper. When asked what it was, Darui explained it was chakra paper. With this we can find out what element affinity you have. I, for example, have lightning and water affinities, the basis towards my storm release bloodline. Darui said, pouring some chakra into the paper with one half crumbling and the other half getting soaked. He passed Naruto a spare sheet, telling him to channel some chakra into it. If it splits you have wind, goes wet like mine water, crumbles also like mine lightning, turns to dust earth and burns you have fire. Got that? Naruto nodded in understanding before channeling his chakra into it. First the piece of paper split, telling Naruto he has wind affinity, then one half started to crumble but one half remained blank. Naruto, unsure what it meant, asked Darui. Darui, what happened? Well Naruto, it appears you have wind and lightning affinities, but usually when this happens both sides crumble, so this could mean that you have another affinity to unlock. Darui said in his usual lazy tone. Two affinities were pretty rare but common in Kumo. He had two because of his bloodline. Yugito had two because she was a Jinchuriki, and Atsui Samui's brother had two, making people think she probably had two as well. There were a few others he could bring up but was too lazy to do so. Well, you can learn some of the advanced moves now later on when you're older, but first go home and get some rest. I need to go talk to the Raikage. Darui said before body flickering out of the training ground, with Naruto following a few minutes later after going through the moves again, improving the speed and precision every time. Darui had just arrived at the Raikage's office and walked in to see doing his usual paperwork. He cleared his throat, alerting the Raikage to his presence. Darui, what I am kind of busy here. The Raikage asked, a little bit of glee in his tone as he could finally take a small break from pushing pen to paper. It's about Naruto, boss. Darui said to his old teammate and friend, making the Raikage smirk a bit evilly when he heard him speak. What did he do? Muck about in training, not turn up? Do you want me to punish him for his disobedience? Worry, old friend, he will never muck about again once I'm through with him. Said his evil smile increasing, thinking of all the work he would force Naruto to do tomorrow. Nothing like that, boss. I just thought you would like to know his affinities. Besides, he is picking up Kenjutsu quite nicely. He has already learned a few powerful moves already. So what elements does he have then? And why did you test him? Asked his evil smile turning into a neutral on whilst waiting for the answer. He currently has wind and lightning, and I tested him because I wondered if he could learn some of the more advanced Kenjutsu moves our village has for the future. Wind and lightning have very destructive affinities they are. And what do you mean currently? Said, pondering over whether to teach him elemental techniques sooner or later. He decided on later. Naruto needed more experience but would make an exception if something big turns up. Well sir, only one half of paper crumbled, the other stayed the same. That usually symbolizes an extra element waiting to be unlocked, as most of the time both sides usually crumble, not just one. This is good news. Darui, keep teaching him the usual Kenjutsu moves taught to Jen, and I will train him in his elemental affinity later. Yes boss. Darui said before walking out of the office. You are interesting indeed, Naruto Uzumaki. No doubt under my tutorship you will go far. out loud before returning to his paperwork. Flashback end. Smirked at the memory, before noticing that Naruto was already starting his sit-up. Damn, that kid has some stamina. Said to himself, watching Naruto go. After Naruto had finished his sets, decided it was time for a spar, so after telling Naruto to take of his weights so he can go all out, they spared for a while, a couple of rounds, all of which impressed and all of which involved Naruto being nearly decapitated repeatedly. A couple of minutes after Naruto had finished his training session and still aching slightly from the beating he took during it, he was finally at home and was being rewarded with breakfast. In front of him was bacon, eggs and sausages along with a few slices of toast. Naruto was digging in, loving the taste. Since he joined Kumo, Naruto had been forced on a ramen diet. But he quickly learned that there are other foods out there that were better for him, and dare he say it, just as good as ramen. He was grateful for it too, because he had grown an inch and a half taller from it. If he keeps it up, he will be average height soon enough, not a just under as he had always been. Whilst Naruto was eating, he heard a knock on his door. He knew it wasn't the Raikage, since he still had another 30 minutes till he had to get back to training. Wondering who it was, Naruto got up and opened the door. On the other side of the door stood Samui. Wearing a new outfit, included a low-cut top that emphasized her cleavage with mesh armor underneath. She had a couple of belts on her, helping to keep her shirt clinging to her body, again emphasizing that she has larger than average breasts. She was also wearing a skirt, dark gray in color with red trim around the bottom. To top it all off, she had a pair of red combat clothes on. To Naruto, she was probably the epitome of perfection and beauty, as she was tied very closely with Yugito in his mind as the two most beautiful kunoichi he has ever met in his age group. Inside Naruto's head, a chibi version of himself is screaming out for him to ask her out. Unfortunately, another chibi Naruto had decided to join in the conversation, telling him he shouldn't. It went a little like this. Ask her out, man, she is absolutely beautiful. The original said. Don't do it, man, it will only blow up in your face. The other said back. All you got to do is show her some of that Uzumaki magic. The same Uzumaki magic you told him to try time and time again on Sakura, and we all know how that turned out. Naruto was brought out of his chibi argument by the sound of Samui's voice penetrating the air. So are you going to let me in? She said in her usual cold tone. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders before moving out of the doorway, saying, would you like to come in? I will now, thanks, she said before taking a step inside. Once she entered, she took a look around the place. The living room was simple: 2 chairs, 1 couch, a TV, and a few scrolls. An open door on the far side to what she guessed was his bedroom, by considering the only thing she could see was a portion of the wardrobe. She took a couple more steps inside and noticed the kitchen again. It was simple, with a small table in between it and the living room. It was a small wooded table in the shape of a square with 2 chairs, one tucked in and the other one out at a slight angle. She quickly noticed to food and realized she had caught Naruto whilst he was eating. It's uncool to get up this late if you want to be a shinobi, she said, her usual cold tone getting on his nerves this time. I have been up training with a sensei since 5:30 this morning. I have only had a small breakfast, a piece of toast this morning, so to be exact, so I think I deserve something proper to eat before I head back to training. Don't you? Naruto said whilst sitting back down to finish his half-eaten breakfast before it went cold. Making Samui think about it for a moment, she judged him too quickly again. At least this time it hadn't resorted in him nearly leaving the village. Sorry for judging you again, she said, apologizing to the whiskered ninja, before sitting down across the table from him. Don't worry about it. Want something to drink or a piece of toast? He said, pointing to the bottle of apple juice and spare pieces of toast on the table in front of them. Samui nodded before grabbing the bottle and a spare glass found on the table and poured herself a drink. She then decided to eat some of Naruto's toast whilst he wolfed down his bacon. Not that I don't like the company, I really do, but why are you here? He asked. It's true, this was the first time she had ever visited him. The only person so far in their age group that had visited him was Omoi, that was who she got his address from. He had visited Naruto and told the team Naruto was a fairly good cook, claiming he made a brilliant full traditional breakfast, which Omoi had tried a week after Naruto joined. Omoi volunteered to show Naruto around and help him get some supplies. When they got back from food shopping, both were hungry. Who knew carrying a few shopping bags could do that to you? Naruto decided to make them a quick meal for them, a late breakfast they called it. Omoi said it was good, but she hasn't had any yet, so she was unsure about his cooking abilities, and toast wasn't that hard of a dish to make, but it was quite nice. I am here for 2 reasons. Reason 1, we think it would be cool to join us for a little training session later this week. And reason 2, I wondered how you were settling into Kumo. She said, leaving Naruto dumbstruck. No one had ever asked to hang out with him before in Konoha. He was always laughed at and ignored. He was even more shocked when one of the people he least expected asked him how he was. I am doing all right here. It's a bit colder than Konoha, but the people are nicer and my apartment is a lot bigger and better as well. Ha ha ha, Naruto said, laughing nervously at the end. It is uncool to lie to your allies, Naruto. Samui said, her cold tone breaking the safety wall he had built around him. Okay, I guess you're right. I was telling the truth when I said the people here are nicer to me, and when I was talking about my apartment being better than before, that is also true, but I feel like I am missing something. I don't know what it is, but it's something. Naruto said, he voiced broken and miserable. Did he really miss Konoha, or was it he missed something in Konoha? He was going for the latter but couldn't really recall what it was. Tell me about your old life, tell me about Konoha. Samui said, bringing him out of his thoughts. If you really want to know, then I'll give you the simple version. Majority of it is the same anyway, so deal with it. He said before taking a deep breath. He exhaled and started his story. I was born on October 10, 13 years ago. On the night of my birth, the Kyuubi attacked, destroying majority of the village. Because I was an orphan babe with no one to argue against it, I was chosen to become the vessel for the Kyuubi. The 4th Hokage sealed the demon and died and forced me into a life in misery and neglect. Quote, I started life in an orphanage before being kicked out by the new patron at aged 5. I live on the streets for a while before wandering into the 3rd Hokage. He took pity on me and gave me a place to live and taught me the basics of cooking and a few other skills so I could survive on my own. I grew up alone and scared. A lot of people hated me because of what was sealed inside me, but since Allah came in saying they couldn't kill me, they just decided to make my life a misery. Ignored, cold and confused, I always wondered what was wrong with me. I had a dream of becoming Hokage so I would be respected. I went to the academy and tried hard, but was again mostly ignored by the staff who didn't care if I got something wrong or not. Realizing I couldn't get people's attention the normal way, I became a prankster and the class clown, just trying to get attention. Unfortunately, most of the attention I got was negative and people started to hate me more. Naruto took a gulp of his juice before looking Samui in the eyes and continued. I failed the graduation exam because of my inability to do a stupid simple clone. I recently realized I have too much chakra to ever make one, but it matters not now. I was tricked by one of my teachers named Mizuki into stealing a scroll so I could pass the exam. Stupidly, I decided to do it and learned the multi-shadow clone technique. Then one of my teachers, a nice guy named Iruka, found me. I told him what happened, and then Naruto stopped to drink some more of his juice. And then Mizuki attacked us. After a short chase, I was told everything about how the Kyuubi was sealed into me, why I was hated. So I beat the hell out of him with my shadow clones, and that was how I became a genin. He said his tone of voice was happier and he was smiling a bit now as he remembered beating the living crap out of Mizuki. I found it ironic that night though, after being told what happened 13 years ago. I just to idolize the 4th Hokage, believing he was the greatest of all time. No, I realized that the reason everyone hated me was his fault, and I don't care how good of a ninja, how great of a leader he was well and truly a douchebag to me anyway, and if I ever meet him in the afterlife I am seriously going to kill him all other again. Believe it, Naruto said, letting a lot of what he had kept hidden out in that short speech. Inside the cage, Kurama awoke, realizing the world around him was shaking and flashing back to that old sewer he was in. He saw the golden bars shake uncontrollably, then stop. The fuck was that? Kurama said to himself before going back to sleep, realizing he was back underneath his favorite tree. Real world. Samui was shocked but kept it hidden well, but she remembered words the Raikage told her about what most Jinchuriki lived through, but there was something else she could tell. Naruto was hiding something from her but decided not to push him, he would tell her in his own time. She finished her drink before something floated up from the back of her mind to her mouth. She didn't know what it was, but it was something to do with Naruto. She looked at him. It wasn't his outfit, a simple red shirt with a black sleeveless black hooded jumper on. It used to be a normal hoodie, but ripped a sleeve of during training, so to make it match, Naruto ripped the other one off after the spar. She looked a little higher, still the same 3 whisker marks, 3 on each cheek. He had the same blue eyes. She looked a little higher and found it. Why is your hair white? You looked cool with blonde hair. She asked, making Naruto almost choke on his juice. Oh, this a sensei said it would be a good idea to dye my hair so no Konoha shinobi would be able to recognize me. Naruto replied. Samui thought it over for a few seconds before thinking it was for the best if he disguised himself, but that didn't mean she didn't like it. She preferred him with blonde hair. Crap, is that the time? Sorry to cut this short, Samui, but I have 10 minutes to get to training with A, said Naruto as he got up and ran around the room looking for his kunai pouch. He found it after flipping his coach over, realizing it was in his bedroom. He rushed in, grabbed it, then secured it around his left leg. Sorry about that, Samui. What day is that training session? Naruto asked as he slipped his sandals on. Friday, training ground 9, be there at 2. She replied before getting out of her chair and walking to the door. Naruto quickly followed her out, locking the door behind him. They walked down the stairs to the streets in silence. They left the building and walked down the street to a crossroads. Samui told him she was going right towards a blacksmith. She needed a few new kunai and shuriken before her next mission. Naruto waved her goodbye before remembering the mission they were sharing next week. Samui, wait up, I forgot to tell you something. He called out, making her stop and turn around to see him running up to her. I forgot to tell you, Yugito, your team along with Darui and C have a mission from the Raikage next week, helping him for an alliance with someone, but I'm not sure who yet, so I figured I'd give you a heads up. Well, see you later, he said before turning around and running towards the training ground. Well, that's useful, she said out loud to herself before continuing to the blacksmith. Training ground. I'm here, sensei, don't worry, I'm here. Naruto yelled as he arrived at the training ground. Good, Naruto, you're here. I have decided that the best thing you can learn is some low-level ninjutsu, and ninjutsu will be a real shock to your opponents. A said, giggling a bit at the end. So what am I learning first? Something that ends with an explosion, or maybe the lightning armor? Shut up, brat, it takes years to learn something as advanced as the lightning release armor to do it at the level of my father and me. A yelled, making Naruto shake in fear at the pissed of Cage wrath. You are going to learn one of the most important skills in Lightning Country. Take this, he said before giving Naruto a leaf. What the hell am I supposed to do with a leaf? This, you stupid brat, said as he channeled lightning chakra to the leaf, crumbling it and burning it in the process. And how is this supposed to help me? Simple, it will help you understand how to generate and use lightning chakra. This will then help you control and use lightning jutsu, so get this down quickly and I will teach you a technique that will keep you out of trouble. Okay then, any tips? Naruto asked. He learned early on in Kumo that if you ask for help you will receive. Try using your chakra to turn it into a ball. You won't be able to turn it into a complete ball. Your lightning affinity isn't strong enough yet, but you should be able to fold it like this after a while. Said, showing him the leaf from earlier. The sides were bent inwards as if it had fallen. Now try it and don't leave this training ground till you finish it. Chop chop. Naruto tried to complete the exercise but kept on failing at it. He looked towards his who was asleep at this moment. He claimed to be meditating, but Naruto stopped believing it the moment he fell on his back and started snoring. Don't prank him, Naruto. Do not prank him. He said to himself over and over again. Memories of painful spars or punishments, as he called them, for when he did something wrong, like be late for training, or when he accidentally hit C with a stink bomb, followed up with some glue and a bucket of feathers. Well, I'm not getting any help from Asun. Maybe Kurama knows. Mindscape. Naruto appeared in the usual field of his new mindscape. He quickly located Kurama and ran towards him. I need help. Comma dot dot. Mumble mumble snore snore. Wake the hell up. Kid, what are you doing here? I was having an amazing dream. I'm not going to say much, but it involved me, a village, and a whole lot of fire. Your genocide dreams aside, I need some help on learning this technique. And how am I supposed to help you if you don't tell me what technique you're learning? Good point. It's the leaf crinkling technique. That's easy. I just takes a few weeks to do perfectly. I don't have a few weeks, I've only got one. Try using your shadow clones. How is that supposed to help? Simple, the clones have a memory transfer ability. Use this to complete the technique in a few hours or a day. If they're so helpful, why are they banned? One reason is that they take a lot of chakra to make, but you're safe because you have that in spades thanks to me. The other reason is because the memory transfer ability can cause brain damage to the user if used in high amounts, but me being inside you negates that ability, leaving you with a headache at worst. Thanks, Kurama, this has helped a lot. See you soon. Naruto said before leaving his mindscape and awakening in the real world. Shadow clone jutsu, he said, creating his favorite hand seal. After a few seconds, 100 Narutos appeared in the training ground. Everyone get a leaf and start the exorcise. Yeah, yelled out the clones as they all picked up a leaf and started the exorcise. 5 hours and a few hundred clones later, the real Naruto was jumping up and down with joy, yelling, I did it. After calming himself down, Naruto wondered why some of his leaves had cuts on them, but decided it would be better to wake up. In hindsight, that was a mistake. A sensei, wake up, wake up, wake up. I completed the exorcise. Naruto said, shaking and trying to wake him. Which went well. Rising uppercut. A said as he shot up and gave Naruto a power uppercut, sending him flying up into the air. As Naruto started to fall, Naruto saw a jump up into the air and yelled out. Drop kick. Naruto just managed to put up a defense in time for A's attack. It didn't do much though, as he was sent hurtling to earth and landed in a crater. That's what you get for attacking me. Now reveal yourself to me. A demanded before noticing the body in the corpse, the black hoodie, black pants, red shirt sleeves showing, and very familiar whisker marks. Shit, Naruto. A said as he ran over to the Jinchuriki. Hey, sensei, I completed the technique, look. Naruto said wearily as he showed a the damaged leaf. That's good, Naruto, why don't you take a rest? You deserve it. A said, pride filling his voice as he saw the leaf his student was working on. It was crinkled and charred pretty well with a few cuts which surprised a, but he then realized that wind was his primary affinity, not lightning. Naruto woke up in his apartment bedroom. He was aching slightly, but that would go after a few minutes. He tried to get up but couldn't. The pain in his ribs and stomach were too much. Damn it, I'm hungry. Naruto yelled to nobody in particular as his stomach rumbled in agreement. He forced himself out of bed and turned on the lights for the living room and kitchen area. He slowly walked towards the kitchen, his hand on his stomach as he moved. I could really do with some ramen right now. He opened the fridge and looked at the contents. Not much, but there was something in it that really surprised him. On a plate was what looked like 2 rice balls with what soy tuna with wasabi mash and a couple of vegetables as well. He picked up the plate and put it on the counter. Noticing a note on where the plate was, he picked it up and read it out loud. Dear Naruto, this is a thank you for the heads up you gave Samui before the Raikage just told us about it. We asked where you were and the Raikage told us what happened. I figured you would be hungry when you woke up, so me and Samui made this. This is also an extended apology from when you first came. Nibi said it was a good idea, so I took her advice on this one. Sincerely, Yugito and Samui. P. Warm this up for about 20 minutes before you eat it. Get better before the mission. Thanks, this means a lot to me. Naruto said as he put the food in the oven to warm it back up. After 20 minutes Naruto was sat on his table, the food given to him by Yugito and Samui. He put his hands together and gave a little prayer. I give humble thanks. He then dug in, loving the taste of the meal. When he finished he put his plate in the sink and realizing it was late went to bed. Naruto arrived at his usual training ground, seeing already they're going through some high-speed taijutsu moves on a few training posts. With one powerful kick one post was destroyed, another was punched to splinters. Finished it off with a double lariat, taking a good amount of the top of them both. The lightning armor is so cool. Naruto said a little too loudly, making a turn around quickly. Deciding not to take another beating, Naruto made himself known. It's just me, sensei. Good to see you, Naruto. Sorry about the other day, but think of it as a lesson. You should always be aware. Just because your opponent isn't conscious doesn't mean they are not aware of their surroundings. A high-level ninja is always aware and on edge. Always be on your guard. You can be attacked anytime or any place, no matter what condition you're in. Got it, sensei. Thanks for the lesson. Just go a little easier next time. Maybe, was the only thing he said, making Naruto gulp at the warning for next time. Note to self: never attempt to wake up sensei again, or alone. So what am I learning today? After many sparring sessions between us that you like to fight like me, upfront and brutal, so you are going to learn two techniques: Thunder Punch and Lightning Palm. So what do they do? Well, as the name suggests, they're lightning-powered attacks. These cover your hands in a veil of lightning. You then strike you opponents with them. Like this, A said as he covered his hands in lightning. He then punched one of the dummies, completely obliterating it. He then gave another a palm strike, leaving a hole in the middle of it because his immense strength added with the lightning. So cool, but wait a minute, why does this look a bit like your armor? Naruto asked with stars in his eyes. You are correct, these techniques were the origins of the lightning release armor created by my father. So what are the hand signs? Showed Naruto the hand signs. There weren't many, so Naruto could remember them easily. Now practice, and when you get good you will be able to do it without hand signs. Naruto quickly made some shadow clones, and when asked what they were for, Naruto explained how they can help him out. It was late in the afternoon. Naruto was hungry, low on chakra and low on light. Naruto tried one more time. He went through the hand signs. He channeled chakra to his right fist, pulled his arm back before slamming it into the training post. The results was barely nothing, just some light scorch marks. Damn it! Naruto yelled out, annoyed that his attack still didn't do anything. He then took a deep breath before turning around and leaving the training ground. Tomorrow would complete the technique. The next day Naruto returned to the training ground half an hour earlier than he needed to be. He was wearing what had become his new outfit: a pair of black shinobi pants, a red t-shirt and a black sleeveless hoodie. His forehead protector was wrapped around the Kumo symbol proudly on display. Naruto walked towards the training posts from before, went up to the last post he tried the jutsu on before. Naruto went through the hand signs, reared his fist back and stuck at the post again. This time it was different. Instead of a few scorch marks, this one left a dent, not that big of one, but a dent at least. Naruto tried again and again, each time improving the result of the technique. After a while he summoned a few clones to practice the lightning palm jutsu. Nice work, it seems you have one of the techniques down. You also seem to have nearly finished learning the other. Just so you know, the lightning palm was designed as a capture technique. It's not meant to do much damage, paralyze the target temporarily, so don't bother about making a huge dent or hole. Said A. But when you did it, your entire hand went through the dummy. Naruto replied. Well, the reason for that is simple. I already damaged it when I was doing my warm-up, and I am much better and stronger than you. It was easier for me to do. But the main idea behind the technique is to send a small amount of lightning to your opponent's system to paralyze them. Quote. Fine. Good, now I want you to try those techniques on me. Go on, give it a try. Naruto didn't even speak back. He knew this would only happen a few times in his life, so he was going to give it his best shot. Naruto went through the hand signs, quickly charged lightning chakra down his right arm and swung for the Raikage, who dodged the attack by leaping to the side. "Hey, you said I could hit you with the technique," Naruto yelled out. "I never said I would just stand there and take it. Your enemy won't give you a free shot. You have to find and make chances to attack your opponent. You're going to have to come at me with the intent to kill to succeed," said before he flipped away into the trees surrounding the training ground. "Shadow Clone Jutsu," Naruto yelled out, creating 30 clones and went about chasing the Raikage. Naruto and his clones have been chasing A for a while now. He has lost 12 clones in the pursuit and decided it was time to go back on the offensive. He grabbed a shuriken from his pouch, took aim and fired it at the Raikage, who saw it and jumped out of the way. He didn't see Naruto finish the hand signs needed for the shuriken clone jutsu, and if it wasn't for his experience he would have been hit by a good number of them. Quickly diving to the floor of a smaller clearing and prepared himself for Naruto's attack. Naruto followed it down and sent 5 clones to attack him from above, under the smoke screen that resulted when the Raikage destroyed. Then almost immediately Naruto and 8 clones dropped down to the bottom of the clearing hidden in the trees. The rest of the clones landed in the area in front of the lightning shadow. They charged and were effortlessly defeated by the Raikage. The first 2 were dispelled when I hit them with a double clothesline. The next one was taken out by a straight kick to the ribcage. I grabbed the 4th one and threw him into a tree, dispelling it. The last one managed to drop 2 capsules before running head first at the Raikage, but was dispelled by a quick jab to the face by the Raikage, but it had done its job. The smoke screen was. So those 2 capsules your clone dropped were small smoke bombs by the looks of things. You seem to have underestimated me. Whilst it was a good plan, it's lacking a few details, like how I am experienced at fighting without some senses and you aren't. A yelled as he lashed out with his right fist, destroying a clone. He then followed it, sipping around on his left leg, using his right leg to land a roundhouse kick, destroying 3 more. A then leapt into the air and out of the smoke. He waited for it to blow over before jumping down, yelling, "Guillotine drop!" and using the fall with gravity to dispel another clone. He then elbowed the closest onto to him, before turning to face the last 2 Narutos. They both went through the same hand signs, one whose right hand covered in lightning, the other his left. "Thunder Punch, Lightning Palm," they shouted as they charged, only to be dispelled by the Raikage's double clothesline. "Lightning Palm" was all I heard. He quickly moved to the left, barely getting hit in his right leg. "Damn it, he got me," I said to himself before seeing Naruto in the air, a thunder punch coming straight at him. "Take this, Thunder Punch," Naruto yelled, swinging his right fist down at A's face. The Raikage reacted on instinct and caught the punch before it could connect. "Good work, Naruto, you have done well. Go home and take a break. Be back at the usual training ground in 3 hours and I will teach a new range technique." His voice full of pride at how far his student has gone. "Thanks, sensei," Naruto said before setting off home for a shower. He stunk. After a shower, some food and a nap, Naruto was back at the training grounds going over the jutsu he knew and was pretty impressed with them. I had just walked in after seeing Naruto turn a training dummy into chopped wood with his shuriken clone jutsu, followed up by a thunder punch. "Naruto, get over here," called out a, making Naruto rush over to him. "The jutsu I am going to teach you know is called False Darkness. It creates a strong bolt of lightning that when used correctly can blast through rock," I said before going through the hand signs needed, then opening his mouth and firing a beam of lightning at the dummies and posts placed there. The attack pierced one dummy before another attack destroyed a post. The key to this technique is its power and speed, but it wastes a lot of chakra to use it. Also, I don't want you using it if any of your allies are in the firing range. Got it? I said before glaring at Naruto to make sure he understood. "Why yes, sensei," Naruto said, scared out of his mind by the look his sensei was giving him. "Good, now here are the hand signs, get to work," I said before sitting down to watch Naruto attempt the jutsu. Naruto created several clones and gave each of them a dummy or post to aim at. This was going to be a long week. Time skip 1 week later. Naruto, Yugito, Darui and Team B were waiting outside the Raikage's tower waiting for the Raikage to finish gathering everything. After a few minutes, arrived told them that C wouldn't be coming because of an injury he received on his last mission. The group set off out of the village and passed the main gates. So sensei, where are we going anyway? Naruto asked as he walked with the Raikage. We are going to Takigakure. Sweet, I've never been there before. Naruto said out loud to himself as the group kept walking down the mountain path. Once they reached the bottom, they would chakra jump and run to their destination at full speed. It would only take them 3 or 4 days to get there. I hope this alliance goes through with that. Kumo will become even stronger, but I can finally have a complete team for Naruto and Yugito. Said in his thoughts, prying that this would work. They reached the bottom of the path and decided to sprint all the way to the border. How the hell did we wind up like this? Naruto yelled out to Samui as he ducked under a sideways slash from one of the many bandits they had to fight. I don't know, some idiot did something seriously uncool and pissed all these bandits off. Samui said back, her voice not projecting any emotion besides her usual cool, calm confidence. Where the fuck is our backup anyway? They were supposed to be here already. Naruto yelled back, his temper getting to him as he used his thunder punch, aiming the technique to the bandit's throat and successfully destroying his windpipe, causing the bandit to cough up a lot of blood before dying. He then flipped backwards before reaching into his pouch and drawing out a shuriken, which he then threw at a couple of bandits charging at Samui from behind. Going through the hand signs, Naruto yelled out, Shadow Shuriken Clone Jutsu. The one shuriken turned into 20 with 10 shuriken impaling each of the bandits. Samui, having heard the thump of the 2 bandits behind her land in the mud, turned quickly to block the incoming attack. What she found was 2 dead foes courtesy of Naruto. But what shocked her the most was the fact that whilst Naruto was fending off another bandit, a new foe came down from the trees behind Naruto. Naruto, move! Samui yelled, getting Naruto's attention. He quickly jumped a few yards to the right whilst the new threat struck down the bandit Naruto was facing. Samui tossed a kunai at the new opponent, who quickly dodged, but the attack sailed through and went straight into the heart of another. Thanks, I owe you, Naruto said as he swiftly moved to Samui's side. Nope, that just makes us even, she replied as they continued to fight, now back to back, Samui using her skills with her Tanto, Naruto with a kunai in his left hand and a lightning-covered right. Naruto, I going to agree with you on this. Where the hell is our backup? Samui said as the enemy forces encircled them. Flashback the days ago. The team had entered the land of waterfalls after a week and a half of travel and after meeting the squad of Taki Shinobi who were there to help transport them to the village. They had stopped in front of a large pool of water with a waterfall at the far end. This is the entrance to Takigakure. Follow us closely. Behind that waterfall is a series of caves which are impossible to navigate unless you are from my village or being guided by one of us. It is also one of the reasons Takigakure has remained impenetrable during the last 3 wars. The Anbu captain said before splitting the team into smaller groups to make navigation easier. The team with the captain consisted of A, B and Darui. The team with the female Anbu member was Samui, Karui and Yugito, leaving Naruto and Omoi in the last group, with the final member of the Anbu squad keeping an eye out at the rear. After a few minutes of swimming, using chakra to enhance their lung capacity, the group emerged from the underwater cave system drenched. This annoyed the Kumo genin, especially the girls, mostly Samui, as it meant that her chest was more visible to the male population. Naruto, trying to stay in Samui's good books, took of his zip-up jacket out of his backpack having a waterproof seal weaved into the fabric, meaning it can't get wet. He placed the jacket on Samui's shoulders, which she quickly accepted by smiling back at him. She quickly put it on, thanking him for the cool gesture. So when is our meeting with your leader? A asked. Your meeting with our leader is tomorrow morning, but first we shall take you to your hotel. The Anbu captain said. Without any more questions, the group followed the Anbu squad to the hotel. The hotel they were staying at wasn't really a big place, to Kumo standards. It was mostly a traditional inn with 3 floors and a hot spring in the back to relax in the afternoons. After checking into the hotel, the Raikage's group split back into new groups for the sleeping arrangements, Naruto and Omoi in one room, Samui and Yugito in another. Karui got the lucky draw and had a room all to herself, until she demanded a bigger room for the 3 girls to share. Darui and B were also sharing a room, whilst the Raikage on personal demand got the VIP suite for himself. After unpacking their supplies, the genin decided to walk around the village for a bit whilst waiting for dinner. The group split up fairly quickly, with the girls going one way to look at something that caught their eyes. Omoi, seeing this, had a near panic attack about how the girls would be kidnapped and the only way to get them back would be to leave Taki, but the kidnappers laid. So before his friend gave himself a heart attack, Naruto decided to take him back to the hotel to relax and told him everyone would be fine. Then Killer B decided to help out by rapping, "Motherfuckers can try to mess with the students belonging to me, but they will regret it once they fall to the wrath of the mighty Killer B." So here Naruto was currently tree walking up a giant that was in the center of the village, wanting to see if the view from there was as good as the one from the Hokage monument in Konoha. "Stop thinking about Konoha, Naruto. Kumo is your home now," Naruto said to himself as he continued up the tree. But it was true, he did miss the view from the monument, and he especially missed the 3rd Hokage company, and he really missed the taste of Ichiraku ramen. But he was happier in Kumo. Deep down he knew it, he just had to make the feelings of Konoha stop. "Get off my tree," yelled out a new voice that was getting louder and closer as time went on. "Crap," Naruto yelled out in reply as he felt a foot connect with his stomach, sending him down the tree. But with quick reactions he swiftly grasped the voice foot with both hands. If he was going down, the attacker was going down with him, and besides, this couldn't hurt as much as his sensei's dropkicks. "Could it? Let go of my foot, you whiskered punk." Naruto felt himself stop falling. At this point, looking up, he realized that the attacker with the voice was a girl, by the looks of it his age, with tan skin and mint green hair. Her outfit included a white sleeveless top which ended at her midriff. Under that was a mesh armor shirt. She was wearing a skirt, but the thing that really surprised Naruto was that she had 2 insect-like wings coming out of her back. Naruto gave the girl one more look over before noticing that tacky headband tied around her right arm. "Girl, chill. What are you doing attacking me? Our villages are to become allies," Naruto yelled out, getting the girl's attention. She looked down and noticed the Kumo for head protector tied tightly on his forehead. They floated there for a while whilst the green-haired girl thought her situation over. "Shit, I was told that Kumo was coming today to sort out an alliance between both villages and that she was supposed to be on her best behavior, and no, I may have ruined the chances of an alliance. And if this kid must be important if he was brought here, and I don't think old man Shibuki will be able to fight against the Raikage, let alone defeat him," the green-haired girl yelled at herself internally, before flying to the nearest branch. "Is something wrong? We have been floating her for a couple of minutes now and what?" the green-haired mystery Kunoichi said to the mystery Kumo Shinobi. "And the wind's picking up," Naruto replies as a strong gust of wind hit the two. The green-haired girl noticed this and looked down. They yelled out, "You better not look under my skirt, you filthy pervert." "I am not a pervert," Naruto yelled back. He took a deep breath, then said, "How's this? You put me down and we forget about this whole meeting." The green-haired thought it over for a few moments. "Promise not to say anything," she said. She knew it was a stupid thing to say. Ninjas weren't well known for being honest. "I promise. Besides, a sensei wants this alliance to keep the council from thinking he's weak, so you have nothing to worry about. My lips are sealed." "Well, that's a relief. Wait, did you say a sensei?" "Yeah, you got a problem with a sensei?" Naruto replied, getting angry that this girl had something bad to say about his teacher. "No, nothing like that. It's just A is the name of the Raikage." "I know, but he is also my sensei. I am so sorry about hitting you before. I should have thought about it first before I acted like that," the girl said as they landed on the ground. Don't mention it, the name's Naruto by the way. Fu. The now named girl replied, causing Naruto to smile at her. Well Fu, why did you kick me off the tree? I thought you were one of the punks that like to ruin and damage the tree for kicks. That's good to know. Also, how do you grow them wings out of your back? Well, that's easy. I just, Kichi is a Jinchuriki. I going to say the seven tails as she is the only one that can fly. Kurama chipped in, answering the question for the still stuttering Fu. Fu, are you a Jinchuriki? Naruto asked, completely shocking Fu. This was bad, no, even Kumo would reject her. Why couldn't she say it was a clan technique? Why yes. She stammered out she didn't want to lose another would-be friend even if she already almost ruined by kicking the boy in the gut, almost sending his crashing down 20 feet, but that wasn't anywhere near as important as him knowing about her being a Jinchuriki. Because I want you to know you're not alone, I'm also a Jinchuriki. If you want more information, I am the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Naruto said, lifting up his shirt to show his seal. So you want to be friends? Naruto asked, getting Fu attention. He answer was an instant. Yes. Flashback end current time. A was dashing through the forest outside the village trying to find Samui and Naruto, and by extension Yugito and Fu. He kept thinking back to the conditions of the alliance. All they needed to do was kill some bandits with the two genin of Team B and the new Team Jinchuriki, or was it demons or beasts? He didn't know. The team name was something going to be decided back in Kumo. But first thing first, find his genin. Then go lightning release armor and destroy the whole base to relieve himself of the stress of being Raikage and mostly the stress of the paperwork an alliance gives him. Naruto, Samui, where the hell are you? The fourth yelled out, causing all the natural wildlife to get up and get as far away from the angry cage. With Samui and Naruto, both genin were covered in blood. The onslaught of bandits was unbelievable, so many just waiting to attack. Luckily they were going two at a time against the genin, meaning they hadn't been overrun just yet. Unfortunately Samui, whilst physically fit, didn't have the unnatural stamina or chakra levels that Naruto had. Samui, I have a plan to get us out of here alive. Do you still have enough stamina in you to make a break? Naruto asked, his tone full of concern for his partner. Yeah, I think I do. She replied, panting slightly. Good. Naruto said before putting his hands in a familiar hand sign, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto yelled out, creating hundreds of clones as a cover. Quick Samui, jump. Naruto yelled out as both genin jumped to the highest branches of the closest trees. Good idea, but why did you make so many clones? Samui asked, panting heavily at the lack of chakra in her system. For this reason, get moving, release. Naruto yelled out, putting his hands in a different hand sign. The result was instant. All the remaining clones exploded, creating a huge shock wave, sending him and Samui flying. Let's get back to camp. We need to inform the others that we found the enemy base. Samui said to Naruto before starting to tree jump to base. She didn't get far before she lost balance and nearly fell off the tree branch, but was quickly caught by Naruto, who picked her up in a bridal carry and started to jump tree to base so he and Samui could get some rest. After a few minutes of moving, Naruto and Samui met up with A, who was rushing as fast as possible to the location of the explosion. He was going so fast he almost missed them. Naruto, Samui, where have you two been? And what was with the explosion? Found base. Got surrounded. Explosion used as a distraction to escape. Naruto said, gasping for air between words. He was tired, exhausted from the earlier battle and the following run. Good, let's get back to the camp. There you can tell me where the base is, then me, B and Darui will deal with the leaders. A said before taking them back to camp. At the camp. The base camp for the operation was just that, a simple camp. There were 6 tents around a small fire. Currently at the camp around the fire stood Darui, B, Omoi and Karui. All of them had returned from recently from scouting the area. All had returned after finding nothing and were waiting for Naruto, Samui, Yugito and the new member Fu. Bored and wanting to stretch his legs, decided to find the last 4. He had only been gone for about 10 minutes when they heard the explosion, 20 minutes later returned with Naruto and Samui closely behind him. Samui, who had climbed out of Naruto's arms, decided to walk back to the camp to escape the awkward moment that her friends would no doubt comment on. Boss, you're back and you brought Naruto and Samui with you. Good, no, all we have to do is find Yugito and Fu and we can rest soundly. Darui said, informing the Raikage and 2 genin that the other 2 genin were still missing. Right, Darui. You two go search the area those 2 were scouting. You have until sunrise before you have to return. Ordered. The 2 genin nodded before jumping into the nearby tree line to begin their search. We will wait here for a few minutes so you can catch your breath. Then Naruto, you will show me where the base is. Hopefully we can have this mission complete and finish this alliance before the week ends. Naruto walked into his tent, opened his backpack and took out a couple ration bars and a bottle of water out of his bag. Annoyed he still hadn't found any ramen, but he wasn't going to give up the search. He then walked outside and sat in front of the fire to eat his snack. After finishing both bars and gulping down his water, Naruto noticed Samui had decided to sit next to him. Naruto, thanks for before. If it weren't for your plan, I don't know if we would have made it. So what I guess I'm trying to say is that you're cool. Naruto was pretty shocked at this. Her never had any compliments from a girl, and from a girl as hot and as cold as Samui. It meant a lot to him. Thanks, Samui, that means a lot to me. Naruto replied, smiling to her at the end. Naruto, I want you to take this, Samui said, handing over her tanto to him. Why? Well, you're short on kunai, shuriken and other tools. I'm staying here with Karui and Omoi, so I guessed you are going to need a bit of extra protection. Thanks, I guess I'm going to need it. Make sure you bring it back. You can only use it for this one mission. After that you're buying your own. She said, her voice taking an even colder tone, as if hell itself would freeze over if Naruto managed to destroy. Naruto gulped and made a mental note to remember to make nothing happen to her tanto. After a few minutes of resting Naruto and a set off to the enemy camp at top speed, well, Naruto's top speed. After tree jumping for a while, Naruto stopped on a tree branch. The base was in view, a group of tents with a number of fires dotted all over the place. The camp was surrounding a small tower about 3 floors tall, made out of earth and wood. A few windows lit by torches covered the building, but what shocked the 2 ninjas the most was the glimpse of a blonde-haired and green-haired girls passing one of the windows. A sensei, did I just see Fu and Yugito in that tower? Naruto asked his dark-skinned teacher and boss. Didn't respond. He was pretty pissed. If it were a genin from any other village he wouldn't have given 2 shits about them. But one of them was from his own village, one of his Jinchuriki as well, and the other the key to his alliance with Taki. If that old bastard Shibuki Sr. and his council didn't want to test us and instead just signed the alliance paper, this whole mess could have been avoided. Said to himself, remembering the meeting from the earlier day. Flashback. With his chosen bodyguards, B and Darui were sat next in the meeting room of the leader of Taki. The room was simple design, a large table in front of them with 3 chairs on each side. Was the only one sat down. His bodyguard stood relaxed but still at ready for combat. Looked around the room. The walls were painted emerald green and there was a large window on the far side giving a good view of the village. The door then opened, revealing an old man wearing a blue shirt with mesh armor underneath. He also had bandages covering his arms from the elbow down. He wore blue shinobi pants with normal shinobi sandals. On his forehead was a normal Taki headband. His hair was mostly white with a large brown patch in the middle. Good morning, Raikage. I hope you have had a good journey and enjoyed your stay in our village. Yes, it has been very enjoyable. The Raikage replied. Well, let's start the alliance meeting. An hour or 2 later both men stood up and shook hands. The alliance had been agreed upon and signed, with the only 2 problems left, one being how to get Fu to accept her duties as an on-active mission doing ninja ambassador for her village. And the other a C-rank mission involving one of the few missing Kumo ninja. Good, well, let me make a request of allowing Fu to join the genin I brought with me to help here settle in with her new genin team. Asked. Very well, call your genin here. I shall get Fu. the leader of Taki said before both men left the room to find their respective genin. This is going to be easy. Said to himself before going back to the hotel to find his genin. Flashback over. Naruto, here is the plan. Said, looking Naruto in the eyes, there is no chance that you will survive if we did a full frontal assault, so here is the plan. I going to go down their full lightning armor and tore a hole in their defenses. Whilst I am doing this, you will sneak into the tower and find and rescue Fu and Yugito. Understood. Naruto responded. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. The Raikage said before breaking from the tree line at speeds Naruto couldn't follow, covered in blue lightning armor. Before the first group of bandits could react, they were dead, slain in a fury of fists from the ticked of Raikage. Naruto, seeing his chance, followed the patch of destruction and made it to the tower. Remembering that the two kunoichi were being taken upstairs, Naruto applied chakra to his feet and started climbing up the tower to the top floor. After a minute of climbing, Naruto reached the window for the top floor. Look through the window, Naruto saw a 6-foot-tall dark-skinned male who was bald, wearing a black vest top with black pants. On his lower back was a katana. But the thing that caught Naruto's attention was the crossed-out Kumo headband on his forehead. The man walked over to the other side of the room. Naruto followed his path and realized he was walking towards Yugito and Fu. Both girls looked filthy and exhausted and were handcuffed to a ring on the floor. Well, little ones, what reason do you have for being here? He asked, his face stuck in a twisted snarl. Yugito's response was to spit on the guy's face. This caused the missing nin to punch her hard in the face. He then grabbed her chin and brought his face close to hers. He looked her in the eye and noticed the Kumo headband around her forehead. He then threw her face first to the floor. Well, you little Kumo bitch, I think it's time for you to die. He said as he started to draw his katana out of its sheath. Naruto, realizing what was going to happen, jumped through the window. Drawing Samui's tanto, he charged towards the missing nin. When he was close enough, he yelled out, "Cloud-style front beheading," and swung the blade in an arc to cut the missing nin head off. The missing nin, realizing what was going to happen, brought up his katana to block the strike. Well, who has the balls to face me, the great Makido? The guy who is going to kick your ass. Naruto retorted as he swung the tanto again, only to be blocked again. Well, kid, it's time for you to die. Cloud style, crescent moon beheading. Makido yelled out as he swung his katana in the shape of a crescent moon, intending to decapitate Naruto. The whiskered genin ducked under the attack and proceeded to thrust Samui tanto upward into Makido's chest, only for him to substitute with a wooden chair from the other end of the room. Naruto, thinking fast, took a smoke bomb out of his pouch and tossed it across the room towards Makido. When it exploded, half of the room was covered in a purple smoke. Naruto then rushed towards Yugito and Fu, taking one of the last kunai out of his pouch. He gave it for Yugito, telling her to keep hold of it in case he comes after them. Naruto then turned and walked to the center of room. He activated his lightning palm in his left hand, holding the tanto in his right. The smoke then cleared. Makido was standing where he was last, his blade in front of him, ready to finish this fight. Both men charged towards each other, both stuck at the same time, the sound of steel clashing with steel ringing in the air. Naruto struck his left palm out, trying to paralyze Makido. Makido, relying on instinct, turned his body to the side. Naruto's palm strike missed entirely. Makido then span around Naruto, bringing his katana with him. He stuck from behind with a slash to Naruto's lower spine. Naruto rolled forwards, dodging the strike. Getting up quickly, he parried Makido's thrust. Not bad, kid, but you are no match for me. I am a B ranked missing nin. Makido taunted. If I remember, you were only a B ranked missing nin for the crime of raping a kunoichi on your team during a year-long mission. Naruto replied as he moved his left arm and gripped Makido's blade-wielding wrist, sending a pulse of electricity down the arm, paralyzing it. Realizing he was out of options, Makido kicked Naruto in the gut, causing him to barrel over. He quickly ran to the door at the end of the room. Naruto, reacting quickly, dropped Samui's tanto and proceeded to kick the small blade towards Makido's fleeing form. The blade struck Makido in his good shoulder. Naruto then flashed through some hand signs, lightning style, false darkness. He yelled out before using the last of his chakra to fire large bolt of lightning out of his mouth towards Makito, piercing his chest from behind, killing the man instantly. Naruto then walked over to Makito's body and pulled Samui's tanto out of his shoulder. Naruto put the blade into its sheath. He was then sent towards the other side of the room and impacted the wall, by smashing through the door and most of wall in front of them. Makito, it's time for you to pay. What happened? A yelled out, realizing that Makito was dead and his student was lying on the ground on the other side of the room. Naruto came in and killed Makito, I think that was his name, and then you blew the door of its hinges and sent him flying. Fu replied as she spotted the dark-skinned muscular Raikage. Good, my student had come a long way. Said, his voice filled with pride. As he noticed the Jinchuriki was not getting up, as he was probably unconscious with exhaustion. Is Naruto okay? Yugito asked, worried about her fellow Jinchuriki. He's fine, replies A as he walked over to the two female Jinchuriki. He quickly snapped the chain into pieces. He then crushed the handcuffs before asking if the two were okay. Both nodded in replay. They got up and, following A's order, cut Makito's head off for the bounty they would give to Naruto. A then picked up the knocked out whiskered dye-white genin and took him to the camp. You did good today, kid. You made a good impression on Samui, Fu and Yugito. Because of you this alliance is going to be completed and we got another bastard of the village's hit list. Said quietly to the young boy on his back. After a few minutes of travel they reached the camp. Samui, Omoi and Karui cheered and ran towards the returning group. Samui gave Yugito a large hug, seeing that her best friend, sister figure was safe. The rest of the genin were talking to Fu, asking what happened. Whilst this was going on, slipped past the group and put Naruto in his tent. The kid needed the rest. Raikage, is Naruto okay? I didn't see him. Samui asked, who pointed to the tent. Naruto was in, realizing it would be a bad idea to wake him up to get her tanto back. From the snippets of the conversation she heard, Naruto had a hard time against the missing nin, and it didn't help the usual hyper-energetic Jinchuriki had used up a lot of chakra up fighting the bandits that surrounded them, and a lot more, creating an explosion big enough for them to use as a distraction to escape. She thought it over for a bit before deciding to get it first thing in the morning. Then sent the remaining genin to bed, before getting out a flare and firing it into the air. The red ball of light laminated the sky, sending a message to Killer Bee and Darui. It was a trick used during the Shinobi War, saying that they were under attack and needed the scouts to return to help defend the base. Within a minute both Jonin returned ready for a fight. They were shocked to see an empty camp, no bandits, ninja or bodies, only sitting in the glow of the fire. The kids are alright. I figured you would rather be back in camp than running a wild goose chase, so I called you back. Responded. Both Jonin nodded. B was about to rap about something but stopped when he realized both A and Darui were entering their respective tents. Time to hit the hay, so tomorrow this motherfucker can really play. He rapped before turning and walking to his tent. B, shut up. The Octo-Bull eight-tailed demon said, causing B to burst out crying about how everyone hated his rap.